Hello, and welcome to a nice Automation Studio walkthrough. Today, I'll be briefly going over the variables that we're using in our football training automation. Now, in the football training automation, I show you how to create these, but let's break down what each of them is used for. So, for starters, we have one number variable, which is our counter. We're using this to make sure we get every single person in each of the lists that we later create. The Excel path, which is a text one, is where we're going to store the actual Excel that we're going to be using for this. Now, this one isn't necessary, but we like to use it because it's a lot easier in terms of running all of this. Now, as you can see, we also have a website URL. That one's used in our open browser. That just puts in what website we're using, and since that's not going to change, keeping it as the URL is nice and simple. Next, we have the row formats. Now, this is the one that's going to format our rows later on, which is why we need it. Our temporary row is where we're going to temporarily store data before we move it into the final place we need it. We have our timer variable, which is for workflow 2. This just allows a brief break in between each of these functions. Next, we have interceptions, players, touchdowns, and yards. Now, as you can see, each of these is a list variable. And what these do is they store the data of each of those things. So, as you can see right here, what it's doing is it's getting a list of all the players, a list of all the yards, all the touchdowns, and all the interceptions on the table. And finally, we have our list of rows. Now, the list of rows is the final one that we use, and it's a complex variable. Now, the reason why we need this is so we can store all of the lists that we then turned into rows in one place. That way, when transferring it to Excel, it'll all be formatted exactly the same and look good together. I hope this helps you get a better understanding of why we use the variables we use in our football training automation.